Hi guys, and welcome to the drawing board. So today we're going to do a very simple scenery. It's something that I quite enjoy drawing, and I think you guys will as well. All you have to do is have an iPad and Procreate. You don't need any extra brushes. We're going to use everything from the brushes that are already available, and all you have to do is follow along. So let's get started. So the kind of scenery that we're going to do is one that's going to have a lot of hills and a lake and like the moon shining behind it. So what we're going to start with is, this is the pencil that I like to use. It's called the technical pen. So I made a copy of it because I like to move around with my properties. So if you want to have the exact same properties, this right here is what you're going to have to look at. These are my preview sizes, my smudge pull, maximum size, minimum size. It gives me a nice amount of ability to move the brush exactly how I want without too much of stabilization. So if you'd like that, you can do it as well. I like to make copies just in case, you can never have too many brushes. So you might as well make changes to the ones you already have. Another thing that I like to do is I like to draw on separate layers, because if you're using an artboard, which is the screen size, you have a lot of layers to work with. So you shouldn't be afraid to use layers. And so every single part that I'm going to work with, I'm going to do on a separate layer. Now we're going to start with a color that for me is going to be somewhere on the blue area, and it's going to be somewhere down here. Dark blue, but also towards the gray side, because we want it to be dark but also have a little bit of gray in it. It doesn't matter if you don't have the exact colors. You want to go with feel, which I think you should as an artist. Just try it out, because it's a very forgiving hobby, and when you're working digitally, you can just always change things, especially if you have things on different layers. So just go with something that's maybe around here, or if you want to try a different type of color, you could, you can make it maybe a bit more green. It's whatever you want it to be. Okay, so we're going to start on our first layer, and we're going to draw a hill. So you don't need it to be perfect, because what kind of hill and mountain is perfect, right? So just sort of give it the look of a hill, right? And now what you're going to do is you're going to click on this color and drag, okay? Drag it and drop it in. In case you're having problems when you drop it in, if there's a tiny little white line in between your color, all you have to do when you drag and drop is have your pen still remain here, and you see this thing over here called threshold. It says 51 for me. Just move that up. So what it'll do is it's gonna fill in more pixels than probably what you have accidentally selected currently. So once you have that done, you have your first layer. Now we take a second layer. And so we're going to change the color just a little bit. So let's say we move it a little higher, a little more towards the grayscale side of the color box. And then we have a new layer that we're going to work on top of. And let's move this behind, because I see that there's space here, and we can have another mountain behind over here. Now what you want to remember is that if we are going to be color dropping, you have to connect things on both sides of the artboard. For example, if I were to start from over here and just finish it off like this, it would color the whole board, and you don't want to do that. And so even though you can't see it, or if you want to see it, you can just temporarily move it up. So yeah, let's do that. So here, again, you don't need to be perfect. Just have a little jagged mountain, fill it up. It's okay, kind of a funky mountain, so I'm gonna fill it up a little. Let's see if this looks better. Let's try erasing. Okay, I'm happy with that. So I'm gonna move it back. Okay, so we got 2 layers. I think we're doing really good. So now let's make another layer. And again, we're gonna change the color. Let's go a little darker. Something like here. Here should be fine. I want this to be in the front. So I know you can barely see it because it's so similar, but it will make sense. There. So I think for now, this should do. we got 3 mountains over here. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna draw the lake. And so the lake's gonna have a slightly different color. So I'm gonna move the blue to the left, more towards the green side of things. And we're gonna go a little lighter. Not too light, because this is gonna be a nighttime scene. So, new layer, and we are gonna draw a line. Now, it doesn't need to be a perfect line, but hold on to your pencil and you see how it turns into a straight line. Now, if you want it to be exactly horizontal, 180 degrees, you just tap it with your other finger. And now it is exactly 180 degrees. So this is the line for your lake, and now we're gonna fill it in. So we're gonna now do a few hills which are in front of the lake. And so as usual, we're gonna have another layer, and now we're gonna move just a little bit more to the green side of things, and let's go dark. So since these hills are closer to us, we're gonna have a little bit more detail on them. So the silhouette's gonna have, let's say, pine trees on them. So it's gonna be a bit more spiky. So I would draw it like this. So you draw a little spiky, a kind of jagged, just draw it a bit like this. And you put it in. Then we have another layer. Change the color slightly. Let's make it a bit darker. And again, just make those spiky trees. They don't have to be perfect. You can have them slanting upwards slightly. You see how it's going? Okay. So again, we do that. So now, I'd like to add a background color for the sky. This is gonna go all the way back. This is gonna be our bottommost layer. And so the sky's gotta be a kind of blue. So we wanna go for a blue that shows the night sky. Let's go for something a bit darker. So I know it looks really dark right now, but we're gonna do something. We're gonna add a layer, and then we're gonna click on the middle of this layer. We're gonna click on clipping mask. So what this does is anything that you draw in this layer only works on whatever is on this layer. And granted, this layer is taking up the whole of the artboard. But why we do this is just so that we can edit quite easily what's gonna be on this layer. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna take a new brush, one of these air brushing brushes. See this? It's called the soft brush. So we take that, we make it quite big, make the color something that's light. So I'm gonna take a lighter color, and with this soft brush, make it really big. And we just sort of do this. You see what's happening? So just do that a little bit. And once you've gotten to a good level, I want you to go up here. And we are going to go to this. It says Gaussian blur. So what we're gonna do is you put your finger on the screen and you pull towards the right. And what it does is it increases the blur. Do you see this versus like this? But we don't want to go all the way. So we're going to take it to, say, 54. 54 works for me. See what works for you. Okay, and once you do that, you click on the screen again, and then you say apply. So what it's done is it's applied it to this layer. And if you want to try again, if you didn't like what happened on this layer, you can either undo it or you can just make another layer. And that's the beauty of having things on different layers. Everything's editable, so you never have to worry about making mistakes. So we can do similar things to each of these hills. I'm not liking the look of the color I've chosen for this particular hill, especially given what our background is now. I'm gonna go a little darker. Let's say here. Everything's trial and error. So this was the layer that we worked on. Let me just put a new color on it. I guess this will do. So now we're gonna do the same thing to each one of these. So make a new layer, make a clipping mask, make a slightly lighter version, slightly. We're using the soft brush. Make the size a little smaller because this is like a smaller area, so just a little bit. Let's see. I'm gonna go to the bottom. We're just gonna do this. It's gonna give this like foggy texture to every hill, and of course you can do a little bit of Gaussian blur. Doesn't need too much of it, if you ask me. I'll do about 20. And now we want to do it to this one as well. So we make a clipping mask. Now, if you want to check what is the color on a certain layer or a certain object or anything, all you have to do is click this. You see this over here? So we click and this pops up. So you take it and you move it wherever you want to select the color from. And you see that it's been chosen over here. So now you have that. And so now we know to go a little lighter than this. And we do the same thing with its clipping mask with the soft brush. I'm just gonna make this a little lighter. We'll make it go a little higher too. Gaussian blur, move just a little bit, apply. Nice. I'd like to make the top a little darker as well. So I'm gonna make another clipping mask and I'm gonna go darker. We're gonna do the same thing with the soft brush. So what that does is it gives a bit of contrast. We can do the same thing to the previous hill that we worked on as well. Let's go with the clipping mask and a little bit of a contrast. I think I'll reduce the opacity on this one. I like to play around with things like opacity and these levels because I find that it's useful. Digital art is very forgiving, and so I guess I'm forgiven for making these mistakes. So are you. Right. I know it looks like we have a lot of layers, but it is very simple and I know you're getting the hang of it. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing with this layer. That's this hill over here. We're going to make a new layer, clipping mask. We are going to find out what the color value is of this layer. Now we're going to do this and make it just a little lighter. Same thing as always, soft brush, just at the bottom center. That looks pretty nice. I don't think I need to use Gaussian blur on it. So I'm looking at the lake and I'm thinking it's a little light. How about we make it a little darker? So we've got to go to the lake layer and drag and drop. I think this is better. Maybe even darker. We need it to be the perfect kind of color that's not too dark but not too light either, because it also needs to be a reflection of what's on top of here. So another thing that we're gonna have to do now with the lake layer is make a clipping mask, and we're gonna have to go back to our technical pen. We're gonna select, let's say, this color. I'm gonna do this. We're gonna reflect. Okay, so let me switch off these two layers, and you can do that by clicking off these two tick marks over here. So now you can see clearly. So what we'll do is, so I've selected this color, the slightly lighter version of this hill, and we're gonna just draw a reflection. It's gonna be a slightly more flattened version of the reflection because it doesn't have to be perfect. In fact, it needs to look a little bit uneven because you have to imagine that water is rippling a little bit. Okay, so I like this. We're gonna make maybe this, and we're going to make a new layer. I will put this layer underneath this one because it goes behind. But first, we are going to draw, so we leave it on top, and then let's just sort of draw like this. Make sure it's closed on both sides. I forgot it wasn't covered on the top. Okay, nice. Close up any boundaries that look weird to you. I'm gonna move this to the back. I'll make another clipping mask. Select the color that's around here. I'm just doing this to be sure. Okay, nice. And now we're gonna move this below. So now you have these three. I'm gonna switch these back on. I think I'm gonna change this color. I think it's too light. I'm also gonna move this. So I'm going to choose freeform after selecting up here, and I'm just going to move it down a little bit, like so. Because I want a little bit of space for the moon that we're going to draw now to also be reflected over here. We can also make that happen by moving these trees a little lower as well. So I'm just making space for the moon. That's the fun part. We're gonna go white. Let's not go all the way white. Let's go somewhere here. We're gonna get a new layer We're going to put this layer all the way back eventually, but for now we'll just draw a circle. So draw a big circle and hold on. So it's going to turn it to like a more smoothened version. Make it a perfect circle, just tap the screen. Nice. So now fill it. We've got our moon. So let's just do this, move it. I like to keep it on uniform when I'm not actively making changes, because that way it's not going to make your drawing wonky by mistake. Alright, so now we're done. So let's close that off. Let's move by clicking and dragging this all the way down beyond all the hills, but on top of the sky. And now what we want to do is we also, oh, it's clipped on. So let's unclip that. Let's do that. We are also going to make a duplicate of this, and we are going to move it here. And we're going to take it and move it down here. Yeah, that looks nice. So you can give your moon a little bit of shading. You can do that with the same soft brush. So we make a clipping mask. Let's take a color that's a little darker, just a little bit. Choose your soft brush. Let's try, we're just gonna shade just a little bit around. I don't know if you can see it. Let's also make a few craters while we're at it. So let's see. I'd like to do them on a separate layer just in case. I don't know, does that look good to you? If you want to, you can do this. You can also play around and make craters with other brushes. You can move around the opacity. So now that we've done this, we just need to perhaps give a little bit of the same kind of shading to the trees. So let's do that. I wouldn't mind giving another layer of trees over here, you know? So why don't we do that? So let me, between these three layers, make a new layer. Let me take the color it's used for this one and go a little darker. We do the same thing that we've been doing. Just make these trees, them going. Okay. Now for this layer over here, let's add some shading. Take this, and we're gonna go just a slight bit darker. I'm gonna use the soft brush on the clipping mask. Let's color the tops, because the fog's always going to be closer to the ground. At least that's what I've noticed. So if you want to give a fog effect, try to give it at the bottoms. So darken the tops. You can do the same thing with this layer as well, which is the middle one. Take this color, make a slightly darker version. Check that it's on the clipping mask, and we do that to the tops. See? Okay, nice. Now we do to the last layer. Make a new layer, clipping mask, select the color, nice, make it slightly dark. This is pretty dark, so I don't know if that's gonna do it. Maybe let's make it lighter and color the bottoms of this one. Okay, so we're mostly done. We just need to now do a few little details. I would like to add stars. I think that's going to be fun. So let's go for almost white. Let's go somewhere here. And over here in luminescence, there's this brush called Glimmer. And I made a few versions because I didn't want it to be like really close together. So you can play around with the spacing. You know, this just seems like too much. So like space it out a bit, you know. And the jitter just sort of like moves things apart. I go for max jitter, max spacing. Let's see how this works. I don't usually use these brushes, but it could be fun. Oh wow, that does look nice. It's kind of like a nice galaxy. Maybe too big. I liked it the way it looked before. More towards the outside, less as you get inside. You can have a few that are like brighter. Let's go give a few splashes here and there. Let's make them a bit brighter here and there. So there you have it. I'm a little sad about what's happened over here. So maybe we'll just make some adjustments to this layer. Let's make it go darker. Choose the soft brush from your recent brushes. If you've selected a brush recently, it's going to be on your recent brushes. It's going to make it much easier to work with. So let's just darken things a little bit. Let's make it a little lighter over here. Just have a little bit of contrast between the reflection. Let me see if an overall fog would look nice. With the soft brush, let's make it bigger. Let's make the opacity a bit less. I'm just trying things out. And let's put a little bit of a fog, just gently wafting. So there you have it, a scenery. I know it's quite simple, but if you're a beginner artist, it's a great place to start. I hope you like this, and I hope you'll watch more videos if I make them. Thanks for being here. I'll see you again on the next drawing board.